were disobedient. When? When once the long-suffering of God waited in the days of Noah while the ark was preparing. These angels, these spirits, were disobedient during the days of Noah. Genesis chapter 6. And it's when God said, my spirit shall not always strive with man. And 120 years, and God said, Noah, prepare the ark. It was during this time that these angels were disobedient. Okay? The Bible says they put them in prison. Okay? They wrapped them in chains and put them in prison. They are in the bottomless pit. By the way, Revelation chapter 9, they're coming back out again. Okay? But I want you to notice that God actually charged them. I want you to think about this. Okay? Someone commits a crime, the police come and arrest them, and they put them in the holding jail. Okay, like the county jail, the city jail, or whatever. And they're awaiting trial. When they have their trial, they come out of jail for the judgment. And then they're sentenced, like to death or to sentence to prison or whatever. Okay, I want you to get this. Those angels are being held in chains in prison right now because of a disobedience that occurred during the times of Noah. Let's make this real simple. Angels left their estate. They committed a crime. They were disobedient. They're being held in chains, and they did this during the days of Noah. Okay? What was their crime? The Bible actually tells you what God charged them with. The book of Job again, chapter 4, verse 18. Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. How much less in them that dwell in houses of clay? He's talking about men whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. So he says he charged them with the crime of folly. Now, the word folly kind of means foolishness. But let's actually let the Bible define the word folly. Remember, we have angels. They committed a crime. The crime was folly. And for that, they did this in the days of Noah, and they were sentenced to prison. Here's what we're doing. We're getting here a little and there a little. We're searching the whole testimony of the Scriptures to find out what happened here. We're not going to the book of Enoch. We're not going to the Hebrew. We're looking at the whole counsel of God to find out what happened here. Okay? So, here is what folly is, according to Scriptures. Genesis chapter 34, verse 7. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel, in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not be done. Diana went into town with the girls, and that guy in town who had the hots for her, you know what he did? He took her, and he lay with her. He violated her. And you know what the Bible calls it? Folly. We need another witness. Deuteronomy chapter 22. Then shall they bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her with stones, that she die, because she hath wrought folly in Israel to do what? To play the whore in the father's house. Whoredoms, fornication. That's what folly is. That's a second witness. How about a third? Judges chapter 19. This is, there was a guy who was a Levite from Bethlehem, Judah, and he was on a journey, and he stopped at this guy's house. You remember this story? And he had a concubine, okay? But the men, the Benjamites, saw this stranger coming into town. They were sodomites. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain men of Belial, sons of Belial, set the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth the man that came into thine house, that we may know him. You know what that is, don't you? And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them, and said unto them, Nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house, do not this folly. That's the third witness now of fornication or sexual perversion being folly. Look in Judges chapter 20, verse 6. And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Lewdness. The Bible is telling you that folly is lewdness. It was a lewd act that was performed. 2 Samuel chapter 13. You remember Amnon, the son of David, who had the hots for Tamar, his own sister. Wanted to be in bed with her. Ammon said unto Tamar, Bring meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them unto the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. God charged the angels with the exact same crime. Folly, lewdness, lying with women, fornication, knowing somebody went in unto them. It's the same thing. God charged His angels with the crime of folly, laying with these women, He put them in chains. It happened in the days of Noah, put them in chains in prison. They're being held right there. Okay? Now let's go back and look at, with that in mind, let's look at Genesis chapter 6. Because here's another objection to this. Okay? The objection is, well, how can that happen? Okay? I shouldn't be so mean. I shouldn't make fun of you. Okay? The objection is, how can that happen? Because angels are spirits. Yes, the Bible says that angels are spirits. Okay? We've watched too many Casper the Ghost cartoons and too many movies and heard too many ghost stories. We don't understand what spirits really are. We have this idea that spirits are shapeless apparitions that we can't touch and they can't touch us. We've adopted this idea through tales and through movies and cartoons. Okay? That is not what the Bible says about spirits. The Bible doesn't give you any indication that they're this shapeless apparition that has no touch, no feeling, or nothing. The Bible doesn't say that at all. So let's look at Genesis 6. It came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth that daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, let's say that they were angels, that left their first estate and cohabitated with these women. The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. They did something that was against the law for them to do. They were not allowed to do this. Okay? And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. They bare children of them, the same became mighty men which are of old, men of renown. Okay? So the Bible, if these were angels, the Bible's very clear then, that these angels mated with these human women, and these human women produced children. You say it's not possible. I think the Bible's telling us that it is. Let's look at what the Bible says about spirits. Okay? They are not shapeless apparitions the way our mind tells us they are. Look at Zechariah chapter 12, verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, said the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. The word form is interesting. God said that He formed. He didn't say He created. He didn't say He blew it in there. He formed it, which means it has a form. Okay? It has a form. He formed the spirit of man in him. Let's look at really the first place in the Bible where we're going to see angels. Now, I think we could probably go back before this. In fact, in Genesis chapter 14, in the days of the giants, we have Melchizedek, who, some say he was Jesus, others say he was an angel, but he was of an order of angelic priests called the order of Melchizedek. If you examine Genesis chapter 14, what you see is a man. You see Melchizedek, who has the form and the appearance of a man, and he receives the tithe that Abram gives him. Okay? So that's what you see there. Let's look at Genesis chapter 18. Let's look at this style, this type of angel. The Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he saw in the tent door, or he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, three men stood by him, and when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. Now, what we're going to see when we get into Genesis 19 is that these men were in fact angels. Okay? So we have three of them. One of them is the Lord Himself, pre-incarnate, and He is appearing. This is Jesus. He is appearing with these two angels to Abraham. Now notice verse 4. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. So two things, and according to this verse. Number one, they walked over. They didn't float. They walked over there. Then Abraham said, sit down here by this tree. So they sat down. They didn't just float through it. They sat down by the tree. Abraham's servants went and guess what he did? Washed their feet. He could feel their feet. They had a form. Okay? Verse 8, the Bible says, he took butter and milk and the calf, which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did what? Not only did he have them sit down, not only did he have them wash their feet, but he made food for them, and he fed them, and they ate it. Just like you and I do. Okay? In fact, angels have food. Psalm 78 verse 25, man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Angels eat. That's what it says. They eat. You don't believe that? Look in Hebrews chapter 13 verse 2. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. In other words, Paul is saying here in Hebrews that people have actually had angels into their house and fed them and been nice to them, probably put them up for the night. Didn't even know that they were angels. I had a story where I think we were having a church dinner and I think we entertained an angel. I don't know that for sure because it says unawares. But these men angels could appear amongst us. We wouldn't even know the difference. We wouldn't even know who they were. Because they eat like us, they sit down like us, they sleep like us, they walk like us, they look like us. According to what we see here, most of their bodily functions are just like ours. That's what it says. Okay? Genesis 18 verse 16, and the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. Now we get into verse 19, and we see that these two same men are now called angels. Genesis 19, and there came two angels to Sodom and even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, Behold now, my lords. I want you to look at that phrase, my lords. Okay, he's calling them lords. What was Baal's name? Remember what Baal's name means? Lord. Baal was an angel. He was a fallen, wicked, evil angel, God, that was being worshipped. Okay, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night. Hear it again, wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. Verse 3, the Bible says, He pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and then bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Of course it would be unleavened bread. They wouldn't eat leavened bread. Okay? So he made them bread, and they ate it. Boy, these guys must be hungry. They're either hungry or they're just really full. Okay? So here we have it's same thing going on. These men, these angels, interacting with Lot. He offers them rest. He washes their feet. He feeds them, and they act exactly the way you and I do. Now look in Genesis chapter 19, verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, and all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. The men of Sodom wanted to commit folly with them. Okay? Genesis 19:10, but the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. They put forth their hand and grabbed him. Now, our understanding of ghosts is that they would just pass right, hey, I can't touch you. No, their hand was solid. It had a form, and they brought Lot back into the door, and they shut the door. Verse 16, and while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. These angels grabbed Lot, his wife, and their two daughters by the hand and dragged them out of the city. Okay? Gabriel looked like a man. Okay? There are men angels. There are angels who have the appearance, the shape, the form, the feel, the abilities of men. The Bible says they do. So I believe the Bible. So if the Bible says that these men, these sons of God, came in unto the daughters of men, I just believe what it says. I don't understand everything there is to understand about it. But that doesn't lead me to want to change the Bible so that it makes sense. I'll just let the Bible make sense to me its own way. So I believe the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men and committed folly with them, lewdness, fornication.